There are people out there who would say that mixing your passions with a great job isn't possible. But today we're chatting with someone who's proof that you can do just that. Today I'm chatting with Cara. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Cara Turnley. I have been an accountant for 8 years. I'm currently a sustainability reporting manager, and I'm also the chair and president of Queensland Triathlon. I have 3 cats. I live in Brisbane and I'm vegetarian.
First question I'd love to ask you today is, can you tell us about your high school self and what did you want to do when you were growing up?
I did a field trip to the Port of Brisbane and I decided after that I wanted to be a shipping mogul and own my own shipping company, and they were all going to be pink.
So pink ships, logistics, what made you want to do that?
It's a good question. I think what I really liked about the idea was, if you dig under it a little bit. So pink was my favourite colour, but I also wanted to work in business, and the idea of logistics and just moving things around the world kind of meant travel.
When was the first time you heard about accounting? And obviously you mentioned having an interest in business. So how did that come together for you?
So I did accounting in my final 2 years at school, but I don't really like maths, which is an interesting conflict that I'm an accountant, but I'm not a huge fan of maths. But what I realised after I finished high school, the tricky math stuff you use Excel for anyway. So it's actually the skills that you learn in accounting. So problem solving, building relationships, being really inquisitive and looking into problems. That was sort of what appealed to me with accounting.
Absolutely. When you say like you assume that there's maths in accounting, I definitely think that is a misconception with young people. Was it after you left school and you started studying that you realised that you didn't necessarily need to love maths to be an accountant, or like how did you realise?
So I actually did economics and Japanese in my undergrad degrees. I was not able to sort of go through a traditional grad program path. So I started working in a call centre for an investment bank and I wanted to get my foot in the door. And then just through my networking, I actually managed to get a role in a Big Four accounting firm with no background in accounting. That opportunity gave me that insight into, okay, so I'm actually coming at this with zero accounting, apart from high school accounting, but the business side of things, problem solving, inquisitive nature, that was sort of my strength. The firm that I worked for actually provided me the opportunity to study postgrad accounting. So I did what they sort of refer to as a bridging certificate. I did that, and then they also put me through the CA program. So I sort of went like this and then ended up as becoming a chartered accountant. It's now led me to what I think is my passion, which is sustainability. So I work now as a sustainability reporting manager. And so my accounting background is actually coming back into play in a huge way, because we're now looking at the mandatory climate-related disclosures. The actual qualification itself, it gives you such a good foundation to then explore all different areas of business. And I think that's probably where I didn't sort of have a moment where I sort of went, I'm definitely going to be an accountant. But for me, I want to maintain my qualification as a chartered accountant, and I want to maintain all of my continuous development.
Feeling like you're making a difference with your career, I think, is something that a lot of people, if not all people, want to achieve. Your career with sustainability, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I am responsible for a lot of the data, which ironically is maths, but I enjoy it. So the things that I'm mostly involved in are collecting data across all of our different business units, analysing that and making sure that we're meeting regulation, reporting on our emissions, our electricity consumption, waste generation. We're always looking at reducing our impact, reducing our waste, reducing our plastic, reducing packaging. The data and the numbers is something that is very objective and you really can't sort of argue your way out of it. The numbers don't lie. And so being able to rely on my accounting background is then giving me a certain level of authority within the business too, so that when I am explaining things to people, they know, well, I like to think that they know that I'm not just sort of making it up. There's also an element of like external reporting, so preparing our annual report, which gets released to investors.
In terms of other passions outside of ones that you can apply to work, for example, how has having your chartered accountant licensing allowed you to do that and make that a part of your everyday life?
I'm pretty involved in triathlon. I still think of myself as a beginner triathlete, and I wanted to be more involved in the administration, volunteering, and that was how I started volunteering at my local tri club. And then that sort of led me to the board of directors for Queensland Triathlon. So I was successfully elected onto the board, and I think having my CA credentials, companies or not-for-profits, they're sort of looking for that as like a real cornerstone in your skill set. And then I was also elected as the chair of the board 3.5 years ago.
Side question. I feel like in the business world, there's an assumption that there's not really a lot of work-life balance, especially like in the sort of finance world. Do you feel like in your varied and diversified careers that you've had, there is the opportunity for good work-life balance?
There is definitely the opportunity. So there was a period of time where I really knuckled down and I just wanted to sort of give 100% to my job and I wanted to progress. But I was going into that, making that decision, make sure that you set up those boundaries. But also there are times when you're just going to have to put in some extra effort, but you're also rewarded as well at the other end.
So you've told me all about your passions for sustainability and triathlons, which is amazing. What value would you say accounting adds to your day-to-day life, either within these or outside of these?
I think accounting and going through the Chartered Accountants program set me up to be able to approach problems in a certain way, knowing where resources might be if I need more information. I think it's just a general approach and a way of doing things that is a skill set that I've been able to use sort of in everything that I do, really.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Awesome. So you would say it is possible to marry your passions with things outside of the traditional work mentality with your job?
100%.
When you say like you're working towards certain goals, what are your biggest goals for this year?
I'm actually working to finish some more study and in my professional life really hone in on our reporting and make it as accessible and transparent as possible for our investors, shareholders, customers, general public, everybody really.
Last question for you. What's one piece of advice you would give to young people who are thinking about starting a career in accounting?
Accounting is one of those fundamental profession that you can really make it whatever you want to do in life. It's going to give you really good basic skills, really good professional skills, and you can take that with you wherever you go. So I guess the advice would be, if you're interested in it, go for it. The opportunities really are kind of yours to make.
Thank you so much for being here today and telling me all about your career.
Thanks so much for having me.
If you guys are keen to find out more about careers in accounting, make sure you check out our free short course, Business Class.